All right, so the first thing we need to do is you need to start a project using the correct template. Okay, so the template I have provided, you can go and download that if need be, but you're going to start a new project and you're going to browse and you're going to find your template file. This is very important. If you open your template to work over your template, you would have damaged or you would have lost a whole lot of important information to start your project. Yes, there are times when we'll refine our template, but at the moment, just get used to starting a new project driven by the correct template. Okay, so Form C template. Okay, and the key thing to check here when starting this type of project is to check that it's project one from start. Okay, if you've got an existing project, you can just continue. So next week, that example will apply. So basically, you'll know that you've started a project using the template when it starts in the starting view, and at the top it'll say project one drafting view. Then you know this is a new project. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to save this, save as project, and find a good place to work. So what I've done is I dock all my folders that I want to use on a regular basis, so like my library. They're very easy to dock. You simply grab the folder that you want and you drag it into this quick selection window. Okay, so OKU 300, class files. Okay, I'm going to save this in here. I'm going to call this site. Site, start. Okay, save the project. So last week we kind of covered the principles of how these work, but just very briefly again, I'm going to start in my site view. The site view is pre-built into most Revit templates in any case. Okay, what you do get in the site view is you get a project base point, which is this round point, and then if you press tab, it's also telling you in the bottom left-hand corner what object you have selected. So that's my project base point, that's my survey point. I'm just going to move my survey point away, okay, just so that we can distinguish between the two. In addition, there's another point called startup point, which is very new. So this is new to Revit 2020 and 2021. So there's another point that's hidden here called project startup point. Okay, all you have to understand is that your project base point is always giving you coordinates fed back from your survey point. The survey point is a point that you'll share with all the consultants. So if all of you agree that on the site that we're all going to share the same coordinate system, we'll move the survey point into that correct location. Ideally, you want to work around, so this is the center of your project. So ideally, anything that you design or anything that you build should be as close as possible to this project base point. We can relocate this project base point later on, but for now, just understand that you work around your project base point and you share a survey point with other consultants. Okay, so we'll discuss this in a bit. We'll discuss this in more depth as I progress this project. Okay, all right, so we've got our starting point and our survey point, and we'll move these points in relation to each other. I'm just going to move this back to the middle for the time being so I can start my project. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is you're going to go and download that DWG file I've given you, and this is why it's important to have at least a basic knowledge of AutoCAD as well, because in practice you'll be working with AutoCAD files all the time. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to insert a link. So we don't want to import the CAD file because it'll import all the line types and font styles, which we don't want to do because it'll pollute your drawing. Okay, so we're going to go and say link CAD, and I'm going to go and find the Brooklyn site drawing. Okay, so I found the drawing. The next thing we need to make sure and check is I'm going to switch off this correct slightly off access because I want this information exactly the same as the DWG file. I'm going to preserve my colors. If you wanted to bring this in one view only, you're going to enable this current view only, but I need the 3D data as well, and I need to see that in 3D, so I'm going to make sure this option's off. I'll explain later on when we start using this current view only. Okay, I've got my Brooklyn site information. Everything else looks good. One thing to bear in mind, if you're using surveyor's drawings, just make sure to change this to meters because it'll automatically scale it up to the correct scale. Okay, so make sure that's in meters. 100, well, 99.9% of all surveyors' drawings are drawn in meters. Okay, and I'll show you that once we open up the AutoCAD file later on. Okay, so we're going to start our site, Brooklyn. And the next thing we need to do is we always need to make sure center, so auto center to center. If we use this origin to internal origin, the origin of this file is very far away and you won't be able to locate and find this in your project. So always use this auto center to center because we're going to move it a bit later, and I'm going to switch off orientate to view. Okay, open this file. Great, so it's put this right in the center. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is, these are our site boundaries. Okay, so I'm going to share this corner, this cadastral corner. I'm going to share that with all my consultants. So I'm simply going to grab this and then move the site over here for the time being. Okay. What I might want to do is I might want to move my project over here somewhere, depending which one of these lots you select. Okay. And we have to adjust the size, but we can do that a bit later on. We can move the project if required. Okay, and I'll show that to you now. But all that you need to understand and start with is we're going to put our survey point and project base point on this corner. It's close enough to my project so that I won't have a lot of inaccuracy. So that's important. Okay, great. So now another thing to bear in mind is that north is always up. So north will be, so you'll see that this has come in the correct orientation. The next thing that we might have to do is change our true north and project north orientation. Okay, so the difference between the two is true north will give us where true north is, but project north is the angle at which you want to work on your project. So meaning if you know your building is going to be located over here somewhere, okay, I'll just use some detail line work. So if I know that my project, for example, is going to be located, let me just snap perpendicular. So let's do that again. Detail line. So from there, SP, snap perpendicular. Okay. These on-snap settings, they don't work like AutoCAD does. If you go to manage and you go to snaps, you can get all of these. So snap perpendicular is SP. Okay. So if you press SP, it's trying to snap perpendicular to this line. Okay, but there is an error here. I can see that it doesn't want to. SP. No, it can't find that perpendicular to the line. That does happen, and that's why you want to change your project north. But I'm just going to use some quick line work. So if my project was going to be located in this zone over here, okay, we will move our project later on to meet the zone here. But you can see, if you had to keep working at an angle, this is not ideal because Revit is always trying to find horizontal, and you'll see it'll give us some text saying horizontal and vertical. Okay, so that's why we want to relocate a project. The best way to do that very quickly, if you go to architecture, reference plane, and I'm going to pick one of these lines on the edge here. So I'm going to use a pick line tool, and I'm going to use this edge. Okay, a reference plane is like a construction line. Okay, just keep tabbing if you want to select that reference line. And I'm going to stretch this reference line out just so that I can use it later on. So all I'm going to do now is make sure that my view is orientation set to project north. I'm going to go to manage and I'm going to change my project north position, rotate project north. I'm going to say align to current view, sorry, align to current object, and now I've rotated everything to match this reference plane. Okay, reference plane is like a construction line. Okay, we can get rid of them once they're done. The next thing we need to do is select your elevation markers and then just rotate them. They will snap horizontal and vertical. So I just like to fix this straight away because it's part of setting up your project. Okay. Okay. All right, great. So now elevations are in the right location. The last thing I'm doing, I might just move these elevation markers just around my site, just so that going forward, I don't have to go and mess with these settings. Okay, so I'm just moving my elevation markers. Then the last thing I need to do is grab the elevation marker itself, make sure that it starts and finishes in the correct location. That's good enough for now. That's good. That's good. So an elevation marker is made out of two objects, the elevation tag itself and then the direction of the elevation. So if you, this filled section, if you click on this filled section of the elevation marker, you can adjust what you're looking at. So here you can see how far you want to look and what extent you're going to look at. But we'll discuss it later on when we start sheeting this information up. Okay, so I've got a basic location where my project's going to start, so I can get rid of that information. Now in 3D view, if we go to 3D view, I'm going to have some 3D contours in space somewhere. So I need, my next stage now will be to go and create my topography. Okay. So my site information's in, I've located the DWG file in the correct location. Now we're going to go and address and make this topography very quickly. Okay. So first things first, you're going to go to the Manage and Site tab. You're going to go and find your topography settings, and when you click on the command, it will start making, it will give you options to make a topography. So you can just use place points, but we've got an existing file. So if you click on place points, if you just hover over it, it will show you exactly how this works. So basically, you just specify an elevation and you simply just start tracing. So if you brought in an image, for example, like an image with contour information, you could trace that image and reproduce your contours that way. There is a tutorial video on how to do that on the OKU 300 module, sorry. Okay, but I've got some 3D information that the surveyor has given me. So I'm going to say create from import. So I'm going to select the import files, literally select that import file. Then all I'm looking for is the contour information. I'm going to press OK. And all it's done is it's assigned a series of points to follow that AutoCAD file that it's given me. Okay, and it's replicated the site perfectly. Okay, so here we've got our 3D site. Okay, the next thing we need to start doing now is we need to pull our project base points. If I go to VG, I'm going to switch on my site information. So visibility graphics only controls what you're viewing in this specific view. It doesn't change anything for the whole project, so just remember that. So I just want to view my internal origin, my project base point, and my survey point. Okay, so if we tab, let me just switch to my line weights at the top here. So that UCS that you see there with the red, green, and blue, that's your internal origin. Then if you hover, you've got your tab. If you use tab, you can then cycle through your survey point and project base point. So you'll notice that everything is way down here. And ideally, I want to work my project. My design needs to evolve around my project base point and my internal origin. So I'll need to relocate the site information down. Okay. All right. But I can do some basic analysis now to make sure that when I'm setting up my project correctly, that all this information is accurate. Okay, so I'm going to do some basic analysis now to determine what level will need to become my datum level, meaning 0. So in our floor slabs, we represent our sections and floor slabs in two methods. The first one is we use sea levels, so your levels in relation to sea level. And that's how your civil and your structural engineers work. They prefer those levels. And we tend to do the same. So we'll share those levels as well, just so that we make sure that we're all using the correct levels to work from. It eliminates errors. Okay. However, when we produce our floor plans, we also use datum. So we'll pick a level to be 0, and then we'll use reference levels in relation to that. So plus or minus if you're going to a basement. But I'll demonstrate how that all works now. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is go back to my site plan. I'm going to duplicate my site plan, duplicate view with detailing, and I'm going to make a new site view. So basically, it's just a copy of the view looking at the same information. I'm going to give this a suffix of WK, meaning working. So this view will go in my sheet typically, and this sheet is where I'm going to do a lot of work. Okay,